It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Green, gardening, and environment radio, flavored with a dash of humor. Welcome to intelligent, irreverent talk about plants and the planet they grow on. Your questions, comments, and participation are always welcome on Facebook and Instagram at The Mike Nowak Show and at Mike Now on Twitter.
Good planets are hard to find. Temperate zones and tropic climes. And true currents and thriving seas. Wind blowing through breathing trees. Strong ozone and safe sunshine. Well, good planets are hard to find. Good planets are in demand.
Brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com.
Jet streams, perfect air.
And here they are, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
Well, good planets are in demand, right?
Is this the week that I play this all the way through? Nah, I don't think so, because it goes for like 18 minutes. It's the Inagata Davida of environmental songs.
Yeah, but it was recorded in the middle of the night, you said, so there you
go. I wish I could play that. Wish I could get away with playing stuff on the inner tubes here, but you know they come in and they smack you down. Oh well, miss the old days of radio. Welcome to the show, everybody. Hey ho, we've already got Bruce who's saying hi out there, and
Bruce gave us the first hi.
Yeah,
today.
He did. You know, it's like that high five up there, and others will be joining us, and we're glad to have you on board. It's a Sunday that. On which it's going to snow again. You know, this is.
But it's not snowing now, and it's
true.
not below zero right now.
No, we're going to get above freezing today. How about that?
Wow.
Let's get a cheer for
wow.
above freezing temperatures for the first time in about 2 weeks. Right?
Since February 4th, I believe.
And this guy's out been looking for above freezing temperatures.
Steve!
Steve and the above. Steve. Well, I mean, I could do.
Alan.
All right, we could.
Alan.
So I presume that's Steve. Who's saying Alan?
That might be. Hadn't thought about that. No, I thought it was the same.
And Alan's saying Steve.
Thought it was the same animal there. So anyway,
but we're not watching. We're listening. So wow. Good morning, Amos. Good morning, Zan. Good morning, Scott, Wayne, Dan Costa, Beth, Skeet.
We've got enough for a softball team right here. And I'm going to start this.
And still, they haven't sent donuts and cinnamon rolls. Come on, guys.
I thought you were doing that this week. I thought you were in charge of the cinnamon rolls and donuts. But I did want to let. By the way, folks, today on the show, you're going to enjoy this. I hope you enjoy the show every Sunday morning live, or if you watch the stream afterward. By the way, speaking of the stream, is the FB working there on
Yep, it fired right away on your on your personal page.
How about that? Okay,
How
cool.
about that?
Yeah. It didn't fire last week, so it's up there now. That's good.
Well, you threatened to fire it if it didn't fire, so there
yeah,
you
right,
go.
Exactly. But oh wait, that's here too. See, I've got all of the stuff. Thank you. It's all at the ready here. No, I'm just going to get them all out of the way now because we've got really cool guests here, and they're not going to want to deal with all that nonsense. We're talking about the One Earth Film Festival today, and it starts in less than 2 weeks on the 5th of March, and it's all virtual this year. It's all streaming, and it's you get online and you watch them. I've seen already several of the films. I've seen about 4 of them. And really good stuff.
And we've been previewing some of them on the show for the last few
And
weeks.
we have 2 of the filmmakers with us this morning.
Cool.
So I'm very pleased to do that. And then we talk after, along 10 years. One of the things that the film festival is doing is celebrating 10 years of making things special. What's the and I had it in front of me, and now I don't have it in front of me. This is how things work with me. I should never ad lib. I should never try
What?
it. Huh?
They're celebrating 10 years of environmental good, 10 years of inspiring change.
Inspiring change. That was it. Although I called it 10 years of environmental good. And the reason I mentioned that is because we have another person on the show who's been doing good for just a little more than 10 years, and that's Erlene Howard from Collective Resource Compost. And in full disclosure, both of those efforts are sponsors of the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki, and it's one of those deals where it makes me happy because I love promoting good works. I love promoting companies and efforts that change the world in a good way, and the fact that they're helping us, it's a win-win deal. Now, before we get to them, we're going to jump right into that. I have a pop quiz. Since we got all these
Pop
folks
quiz.
signing in, yeah, because Jessica Rink typed me this week, Snappy J Dog, if you're following on Twitter, and said that she also had 10,000 sparrows in her backyard. As you know, I've been complaining that I put the bird, and I just changed it. I walked in the snow in my tennis shoes to put my tennis shoes to put stuff in the feeder, the seed and the corn and all this stuff, and then walk back in and earlier
took off your wet tennis shoes.
No, I'm leaving them on. They're going to dry on my feet here. That's the way it's going to work. No, that's too much effort at this point. So I put more stuff in the feeder, and the 10,000 sparrows, of course, have showed up again. But earlier this week, I had a visit from a different bird. I got the monocular out there, and I was looking at the bird, and I'm pretty sure I did an ID. And so that's our pop quiz. You have 3 choices as to what the bird might have been. All right.
Who read your Facebook page?
I didn't put it on the Facebook page.
Oh, okay.
No, I didn't. The only person who knew about it was you. So, was the bird that showed up in my yard along with the 10,000 sparrows, was the bird A, male Cassin's finch, B, a giant condor, or C, an emperor penguin? So it was one of those 3. If you want to do that for the whole show, you'll stay warm. You'll stay warm. It was either a male Cassin's finch, a giant condor, or an emperor penguin.
Are you asking me or our viewers?
No, I'm asking our viewers, and I'm sure they'll come up with some creative answers.
Bruce says C.
And you're right. All right.
And what fabulous Wally prize does he win?
I don't have a Wally prize for Bruce at the moment because it was a silly contest. It was not meant. So, but thank you.
I think Carol Freeman, I think, got the correct answer.
I was kind of excited, actually, because I saw all these birds out there. And if we're getting responses, maybe I shouldn't give it away. But as I said, it was a silly contest. But I was out there and I looked with the monocular and was very excited to see something that wasn't a sparrow at the feeder. And then I followed it up into the tree, and then I went to the...
A little bit of red going by on the
little
bird.
bit of red hair, red
a toupee,
a red wig, right? A red wig,
a red crown.
Crown, that's it, and a red breast. And so I ran to the computer and looked it up, and then ran back to the window, and it was still there.
In your tennis shoes.
In my tennis shoes, which had not been in the snow. And there you go. So 10,000 finches and the...
One sparrow?
One male Cassin's finch. And I don't know how it survives, but there you go. All right.
Congratulations.
Well, we need to get this underway. As I mentioned before, we are talking this week about the One Earth Film Festival. We have a couple of directors. Let's bring them in. As you can see on your lower left, Christi Cooper, who's the producer and director, and she's waving. Hi, Christi. And on our right,
From Bozeman, Montana.
Yeah, Bozeman, Montana, which is a great. So we have Christi Cooper, who's in Bozeman, Montana right now, and on your right in the bottom is Shannon Germaine. Is that how you pronounce the last name, Shannon?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're in Maryland. Where in Maryland are you located?
I'm in Annapolis.
Annapolis. Okay. So we have the Mountain Time, Central Time, and Eastern Time all represented on the show this morning. And Christi and Shannon have both produced films that are being shown at the One Earth Film Festival. Let's start with Christi, and then I'm going to move over to Shannon and talk a little bit about her special participation in the show. I wish I could show your film, Shannon. I really wanted to do that. I might show a little bit of Christie's, but they warned me. They said, well, it's only 6 minutes long, and we really want people to sign in on the 13th of March to see the film because you're with the young filmmakers, and we'll get to that in a second. But let's start real quick with Christi. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that you're an award-winning cinematographer. You've got a PhD in neuroscience and an MS in microbiology. What the heck are you doing making films?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. I spent 16 years in preclinical basic research, working on stem cells, and I was in Europe for those years, in Germany and Sweden, working at universities there. And my stem cell research kind of led more into communication and science communication. And long story short, I was seeking another way to be able to tell stories about science or to be able to increase, public awareness and understanding of science. And so I came back to the U.S., landed here in Montana, got my MFA at Montana State University. They have a MFA in Science and Natural History Filmmaking, which is specifically geared towards teaching scientists how to become film producers and directors. And so that's kind of where I landed.
and you end up making a film, though, that's not really, it's not about science.
It's not really science.
Right. It's
No.
not science per se at all. It's a film called Ute versus Gov.
Youth.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
No. I'm sorry. That was my
He's being goofy.
that was my Joe Pesci from my brother or my cousin Vinny. Are you familiar
My
with?
cousin Vinny, yeah.
Yeah, Ute. So I just had to do the joke once.
Big Gov.
Yeah, Youth
there we go.
Youth v. Gov.
Yeah.
And it's I saw it the other night, and really good film. A really wonderful job putting it together, and it's about a bunch of kids. And if you go to my website, MikeNowak.net, and I want to say kids, and some of them are now in their 20s, who sued the government basically over climate change. And
That's
you've
right.
been and you've been following this, and we're going to talk about that in more detail. And I hope we can in a little bit show a clip from the film and I'm interested in what happens when a filmmaker gets involved in a story that doesn't end in 6 months or a year. You've been filming this for about 5 or 6 years now.
5 years.
Yeah, 5 years.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's a long commitment. And by the way, folks, the One Earth Film Festival starts on March 5th, and it goes through the 14th of March. You can go to oneearthfilmfest.org to see the full list of films there. And one of the things that they're doing is the Young Filmmakers Contest. And in honor, I don't know if it was in honor of the 10th anniversary of the One Earth Film Festival, but they chose 10 winning films in a bunch of categories. Apparently, there were 149 entries. Students 8 to 25 made films, and categories like elementary school award and middle school award. We happen to have the high school award winner, and that's Shannon on the lower right there, Shannon Germaine. And Shannon, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Okay, I'm all right. And now you said you're in Annapolis, Maryland, but are you still going to school, or did you go to school in Ann Arbor, Michigan?
So I go to an off-campus program. So like I'm in Maryland, but the school's based in Michigan.
Okay. So you're getting ready to go back as well, right?
To go back to
Ann Arbor.
where? I've never been to Michigan in my life. It's an off-campus program because I'm homeschooled.
Oh, you keep saying off campus, and I keep thinking that it's okay. See, this is me stuck in my own pre-COVID brain. I kept thinking, well, the building is outside of Ann Arbor, but you've been doing this all online, is what you've been doing. Is that right?
Yeah, I go to online school. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Well, see, now I've got that all figured out. So from Annapolis, you've attended this school, and okay, I have to ask, what made you decide to do this film? You did a film called Plastic Crisis: Our Oceans in Peril. It's a short. It's a short film, and what made you decide to do this? Had you done other films before, and why plastics?
I actually haven't done any documentary films before. So I really wanted to open people's eyes to the problem of plastics, and I think too many people think that by just recycling they're doing enough, but that's not nearly enough because we're still making too many new plastics and not using the recycled products.
Would you like to come to Chicago and explain that to our city council? You could, and that's, as anybody who watches this show knows, that's something Peggy and I have been talking about forever, it seems. The idea being not only reduce, reuse, recycle, but refuse. I'm sure you've heard that R as well, Shannon. Sometimes some people use the word rethink, which is just don't even consider buying plastic. But so you did this film, and you interviewed a lot of people. Did you have a hard time tracking down folks that you wanted to interview for the film?
It was pretty hard, but I actually found some people. Like I had to ask a lot of people, and some people couldn't do it. It's of course hard to interview during the pandemic.
Yeah. But you had people from Greenpeace and a lot of other big organizations, so.
Yeah, I was impressed by that. Now you didn't actually have what's his name, Ted Danson on there, but you used clips of Ted. I was kind of hoping that you had an in with Ted Danson so that I could say, hey, would you send me his email address so I could get him on the show? But you used some clips of him testifying, and you had interviews with other folks. Did you find that it was hard to get them to understand that you were serious about what you were doing? I'm sure some people looked at you, and at the time you were probably only 13 when you were putting this together, because you're 14 now, right? And do you think there were some people who didn't take you seriously?
I actually started it when I was 14 because I started producing in last fall.
Okay.
I don't think people really, maybe people didn't think I was serious, but I'm not really sure.
Okay. Go ahead, Peggy.
I was going to say, so how do you approach, the whole project of then going to Greenpeace and going to the other organizations to create the film from high school? Was this something that you had some backing with your teachers to do? You did it on your own?
I did it on my own, actually. I just emailed them, and they wanted to be interviewed. Some of them couldn't, right. But a lot of them could. But
you say you had not done anything like this before.
Yeah, I actually haven't. I'm new to this is my first actual documentary.
Wow.
You did a fabulous job. It's amazing.
She gets a ding. from this. Yes, an applause from
Yay.
Christi Cooper. Yeah, a really, really remarkable job. So what was the hardest part about putting the documentary together? Were you comfortable? Was it more about writing it, or was it more about editing it? Was the sound a problem? Were the visuals a problem? What was the hardest part for you?
It was all pretty complex. Maybe interviewing, but also editing was like a long time because like I had some issues with editing.
Who doesn't have issues with editing? Christi, do you want to spend a couple of days with Shannon and tell her about editing problems?
It could probably last a week.
Yeah, I think so.
Master course.
What you're learning, Shannon, is this is hard stuff. In all of it. I mean, and even this is, putting images on the screen and matching them with the sound and getting it all to roll smoothly. This is the goal. This is what everybody tries to do, whether it's live, what we're doing now, or what you've done. So the question that Peggy and I had, we were talking about this the other day, and we were wondering what your classmates thought about it. Now, part of the problem of doing virtual school is I assume you don't just hang around with the kids you go to school with. Do you at all? And if you do, how does that work out?
Actually, I don't. I'm not really sure who like all my classmates are actually. Like my friends are like usually from outside of the school. Like I usually don't meet a lot of people in school, but like at other places.
Wow.
Yeah. So of your friends then, what are their opinions on plastics recycling versus reducing versus not using plastics? Where do most of your friends stand?
I think my friends support using less plastic. I think they probably know more about it than most adults, just because I won't shut up about it.
So I guess from your perspective, then, how do you approach either people your age or adults or parents? Maybe not yours, but other parents, to explain it. What is your approach to really explain the problem?
Basically, since the oceans are filling up with so much plastic and a lot of it doesn't get recycled, that is why it's a huge problem.
Well, you talk about in the film how the plastics break down, and if you like fish, you're probably eating plastic, and it's going to get worse and worse as we go on. I guess the question is, how do you
drinking plastic?
Right. How do you talk your friends, and your parents and anybody you know into cutting back their plastic use? How do you do that?
I usually send them to watch my documentary, and I yell at them to stop using so much plastic.
Now, see, people tell me all the time, Shannon, that yelling at people doesn't work. That you have to be you attract more flies with honey than you do with battery acid. If you want to write that down, you can write that down. But no, I get it. I bet it's got to be a little bit frustrating to you, because it is frustrating to us, and we know what a serious problem is. One of the guys you have a clip from in your film is testifying and says, "Well, you know how good plastics are. They in medicine we couldn't do half of what we're doing now without plastics." How do you respond to that?
In that film, are you talking about the Tony Radowski one?
It might be. I don't remember the name.
Yeah, I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I show them to I'm kind of nervous for this interview.
No,
so
that's
this wasn't like
You're doing great, Shannon.
Shannon, and one of the things that you can say if you get nervous in an interview, just to put people in your place, you say, "I think my film speaks for itself." Okay, you get to you get to say that. I think my film speaks for itself.
No,
No,
you're doing great, Shannon. Don't.
so let me ask you: are you planning to do any more films based on? I mean, after all, you won an award for this. You got $350, and another $350 is going to go to a concern that you have. You've decided to put $350 to the Plastic Ocean Project. What's the Plastic Ocean Project?
The Plastic Ocean Project, they do hands-on work cleaning plastic off the beaches.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
this is something that Peggy does too. Tell Shannon what you do with the Great Lakes here.
There's a program called Adopt a Beach through Alliance for the Great Lakes, which is part of the larger ocean cleanup and shoreline cleanups that happen every September with the Ocean Conservancy. And so thousands and thousands in the Chicago area and the Great Lakes area for one particular day will clean up and measure and weigh and catalog everything. And the amount of microplastics and little bits of plastics on the beach that we find in the Great Lakes are just incredible. It's just unbelievable and scary. So thank you for shining a light on this, for doing the film.
Yeah, it's great that you've got money going towards that. So what's next for you? What is it you want to do next in terms of filmmaking?
I'm thinking about making more films, and they'll probably be environmental films, but I may do some more travel films.
Travel films. Why travel films?
Yeah. I'm actually a vlogger on my YouTube channel, Nix the Norm. I hope you get your viewers to subscribe to my YouTube channel, please. And, I did a lot of travel films before, like on my YouTube channel, because I like travel a lot. But with the pandemic, I stopped doing that.
All right, tell us about Nix the Norm. It's NIXTHENORM. Is it .com?
Yeah, I have a website too, and it's also the name of my YouTube channel.
And so go to YouTube, Nix the Norm, or go to the website. What happens on Nix the Norm?
So I started my first video when I was 12. It was like I'm trying to remember what it was. It was I was during the government shutdown a couple years ago when I was 12, I was like really upset because a lot of my friends' parents weren't getting paid. So I did my first YouTube video. It was a parody of Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train, and it's called Shutdown Train. And it was basically yelling at members of Congress and the president to stop holding my friends' parents' paychecks hostage while they're doing their political stuff. In fact, the government shutdown ended the day after I posted it. I'm sure that was just a coincidence, but I like to pretend that it was because of my video. And after that, I just kept vlogging. At first, I started doing travel vlogs since I love to travel, but then the pandemic hit, so I started like a series on homeschooling. And that led into my first documentary, which I won the award for.
Wow. You know what? I don't think it was a coincidence. I think that it was Nix the Norm that caused that to happen. Let me ask you one more question, then I'm going to let you go, and we're going to move on to Christi. What has it been like for you as a student getting through? You're getting out of middle school and you're going into high school, and you got to do it all online. Is this been an issue for you? Do you miss meeting students in person, or is this some other? Have you thrived in this situation?
I really do miss my friends, but we do play games on Zoom a lot, so we still get to hang out virtually. The pandemic really impacted me. It was really weird.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
Okay. I also miss playing in my rock band like I did before the pandemic.
And what instrument do you play?
I sang and did guitar.
You do a little bit of everything, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can't wait till you can get back in school. I bet you can't wait to get back in school. If folks want to take part in this, they can go to One Earth Film Fest, and the what's going to happen is on the 13th, all of the student films are going to be shown, and you will, and most of them are pretty short. In fact, those were the rules. And they're going to be unveiled at that time, and some of them are animation, some of them are live, like yours with interviews, and that all happens at oneearthfilmfest.org. Shannon, this has been great. We really appreciate the fact that you were able to take time and talk to us about your film. I will let you go, and then I hope I get to meet you in person at some point.
Thanks again.
Keep telling your stories, Shannon.
Thanks.
Yep.
Bye.
From somebody who knows there. Yeah.
Okay.
Keep on working it. All right. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. There goes Shannon. And when we come back, we're going to talk about a different kind of film with Christi Cooper, who's in Montana, and we'll be right back.
At Sitka Salmon Shares, we take pride in being a seafood company that's a little different. In fact, 10 seasons ago, our motto was "We do salmon differently." Nowadays, we harvest 15 species of wild-caught Alaskan fish, but still call ourselves Sitka Salmon Shares because, well, we're a little different. Our difference starts with our fleet of fishermen who own a slice of the company and are paid above industry average. They deliver fish to our docks in about half the time as other fishermen, which means higher quality of fish for you. And we never buy our fish from large processors where we don't know how each fish was caught or handled, like most other companies do. Another difference is our fish plant, which we own too. Our plant freezes fish about twice as cold and twice as fast as the other guys. This produces unparalleled quality at a cellular level. Ooh. Our difference extends to you too. By joining our community, you band together with thousands of other people who want to make a difference in the way that their food is produced. This allows our fishermen to harvest fish just for you, with the respect, thought, and care that the fish, the ocean, and you deserve. So, be a little different. Join us at SitkaSalmonShares.com.
At this time of year, we spend a lot of time indoors with our plants, so help them thrive. The plants you're viewing were treated with Leafzyme, a foliage spray designed to activate beneficial microbes already present on the leaves. A spritz every few weeks promotes growth-enhancing microorganisms that process dust and other particles into nutrition that indoor plants can absorb through their leaves for beautiful and vigorous growth. Go to blazing-star.com and check out their BioGarden line for home gardeners.
You have the ability to give your soil a superpower. It's called composting. If you don't have a backyard, you need to contact Collective Resource Compost. CRC has diverted 7,000 tons of food scraps since 2010. They bring you a fresh 5-gallon bucket or a 32-gallon neighbor tote with each pickup. You fill it with organic matter from your kitchen, they swap it out and get it to a commercial composting operation. Fight climate change. Go to collectiveresource.us. And speaking of the One Earth Film Festival, Peggy.
As you've already heard, today we're talking about the One Earth Film Festival. Leading up to the festival, we've been showing you trailers of some of the great films that will be presented this year. Today, these very special people want to tell you what it means to be celebrating 10 years of inspiring change.
About 10 years ago, something big happened. Something that changed the world. I was born. So was I. Me too. And so was the One Earth Film Festival. Since 2012, the festival has been bringing us awesome movies about the environment. This year, there's movies about mushrooms. Fungi are old friends. Films that will inspire you to change the world. And think twice about plastic. We need to fight for environmental justice now. Clean air and water should not be a luxury. What happened in Flint, Michigan should never happen again. Let's stop treating our dirt like dirt. Everyone deserves a healthy place to live. Let's fight climate change. Let's ride 2 wheels to a cleaner future. Let's take action to protect our planet. Because we've only got one. We can't live on the moon. It's colder than Chicago. So be ready to be moved. Be ready to be amazed. Be ready to make change. The One Earth Film Festival. Be there.
or be square, as they say. Did you see in that, Peggy, the prairie dog that lifted its head and yelled,
Alan! Alan! Alan!
Yeah.
Alan! Alan! Al! Alan!
Steve!
Steve, Christi, you know what we're referring to, don't you?
I do. I do.
I'm so glad you do. I'm so glad you get the joke. That is just so wonderful.
Well, and now that we can play video, we need to put that up one week.
You're right. I need to do the video version. Okay, that's something to do.
I'll taking a note.
Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Christi Cooper, thank you for your patience. Really appreciate it. And so good to have you here so we can talk about your film, Youth VGov. And as I said, I saw it the other night. Really remarkable job on a really difficult subject. Yeah. And the idea of following a court case. I mean, all right, let's put it this way. People love movies about courtroom drama. They love courtroom dramas. They just do. But there's a difference if you can get David Mamet to write your screenplay and you have to go out and shoot it yourself. For one thing, most of the time you're not allowed in court. So you have to do everything surrounding that. I was kind of amazed at one of the scenes towards the end of your film where there's a group of people and the court proceedings are being shown via video to this huge group of people outside. That doesn't happen a whole lot, does it?
No, I don't think I've ever seen anything like a live feed from an oral argument hearing projected onto a big park screen. The nonprofit organization that represents the youth have done a really great job around promoting the hearings or any of the happenings that are happening in the case. They do a really good job of bringing young people, encouraging them to be a part of the process, coming to the courthouse, listening to the hearings.
Yeah.
That particular moment was in Portland, and it was projected onto a big screen at Prospect Park. Mm-hmm. And that was pretty amazing. And I had some of my crew there filming what the audience that couldn't make it into the courtroom was experiencing. And then we had another crew inside the courtroom as well.
So how did you get involved in this? How does a girl from Missoula get
Bozeman. Bozeman.
Oh, you're from Bozeman. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Bozeman. No. I'm sorry. I have that in my head because that's my frame of reference. I've been to Missoula. I have a friend who lives in Missoula.
I've been to Bozeman.
Have you been to Bozeman? Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Cool. So we've both been to Montana. So in Bozeman, how does a girl from Bozeman get involved in this?
When I moved back to the U.S. and started my MFA program at MSU, I became part of a project that was organized by Witness. It's a social justice human rights organization based out of New York. It's actually Peter Gabriel's organization. They use video for social change. And this project was in collaboration with Our Children's Trust, who is the legal nonprofit representing the kids in the case. And we did a series of 10 short films focused on young people that were suing their state governments. And this was a project that ended up kind of, bleeding into maybe 2 to 3 years of my life. And my partner, Kelly Matheson, on the project, as well as some of the other MSU grads, worked on this project. And so it was kind of my steep learning curve into climate litigation, a lot of legal concepts, also first time filming with young people, which is a really different type of filmmaking, or at least there's different challenges and aspects of that you have to think about. And we were coming at this from a human rights perspective. Mm-hmm. So I had the opportunity to work with some of these young people back in 2011 and 12. Shatez Scott Martinez in the film, as well as Kelsey Juliana, and continued to have this, relationship with them over the years. As in 2015, when the plaintiffs filed this new federal case, I was following it intimately. I, was friends with the legal team and following that story and was, pretty had a pretty close relationship with Xiutescott and Kelsey as well. So when they had their first big win in the courts in the spring of 2016, that was the moment that I realized I kind of needed to drop everything else that I was doing and my other projects and put my focus and energy into this story.
Yeah, it's amazing what one court decision will do to change the momentum of a case like that, isn't it?
Absolutely. The first case that was filed in 2010 was dismissed pretty soon after. So the legal team went back to the drawing board. They came up with a much stronger case that has a constitutional basis. And this, there was just a sense, I think also from the legal community, that this case had, real legs to stand on. To hear a judge say that these plaintiffs had a constitutional right to a healthy atmosphere, it just, I don't know, it just felt like it was the right moment in time for me to jump onto this.
Yeah, let's explain real quick to the folks now who are wondering, well, what did they sue the government about? And basically, you alluded to it.
Who are these kids?
Yeah, who are the kids? There's 21 of them. It's an amazing group. Some of them are very charismatic, and you can see that they have futures in activism. It wouldn't surprise me if a lot of them continued. But basically, the idea was that the youth sued the U.S. government because the government was keeping them from fulfilling their moving forward with their lives and their rights to health and happiness and a future. Right? Is that close enough?
Yeah, I mean, the basis of the claim is that the government has actively harmed these young people, has violated their constitutional rights.
The U.S. government.
The U.S. government has violated their constitutional rights to life, liberty, property, security, also violated the public trust doctrine, and that young people are disproportionately impacted by these harms. You can't sue the government for inaction or for not doing something. And I think that's an important point that a lot of people don't always understand about this case. You can't, their claim is that the government has actively harmed them. The government has taken actions that has created this crisis. And so we, in the story, go back to the 50s and 60s and show what the government has known, what the government's own scientists have known over these decades, what they were telling the administration, what the various presidential administrations understood about the science and about the dangers of increased greenhouse gas emissions.
And what I want to say,
and then the actions that they took.
Right, and you document that very well, and that's part of what I like about this film. It's not just the story you tell, but it's also an education, and all the best documentaries tell a story, but they also educate you. They teach you something. And you do these timelines, and folks, if you're sitting back there and you're going to say, well, the Democrats have always been the good guys and the Republicans have always been the bad guys, right? And you can see Christi shaking her head. No, they all did it. They were all on board
even Jimmy Carter.
The fossil, yes, even Jimmy Carter. They were all on board the fossil fuel train, and nobody. The amazing thing is, having lived through those times, those people didn't even think about any other way. I mean, yes, Jimmy Carter did put solar panels on top of the White House and then turned around and signed a huge fossil fuel
and endorsed
deal.
The coal industry.
Endorsed the coal industry. I mean,
it's very complex because in my research and digging deep into this, it's, I think a lot of these presidents have had good intentions. A lot of the administrations have had good intentions. President Carter had a huge conservation initiative that he, wanted to not only bring renewable energy, but to also conserve energy. But at the same time, we had the oil crisis. And so there's external influences that happen. There's things that happen in our lives and in society, and we have decisions to make. And I think this is what I really was trying to hone in on, is that yes, things are complicated, and yes, we have needed energy, and yes, we needed a a national source of energy, so that maybe we weren't always having these, conflicts with other countries around oil and energy. But there's other decisions we could have made. We didn't have to go down the fossil fuel path. We could have already in the 70s been well steeped into the renewable energy
and another
energies.
thing that's important is that, and again, this is not something you really get into, but we know now, the oil companies knew this. They knew what was happening to the planet. They knew this well in advance. You do allude to some of that in the film. So if they knew, the government knew, and the government still didn't do anything, we have for decades said, we'll deal with this 20, 30, 40, 50 years. We'll get through it. Something will change, but nothing changed. I mean, all you got to do is look at Texas this week, and the governor saying, what the fault of this is? It's those darn windmills out there. That's what's causing the problem. And you just want to shake him. You just want to shake him until his teeth rattle. But that's where we are. That's where we are. So what I would like to do here is show a little clip. It's not, as you say, it's not technically a trailer, Christi, but this is a clip from the film, and I think folks will enjoy it.
We come from all corners of the United States, from really different backgrounds, different cultures, all working together on this. And that's a really amazing feeling.
It's kind of nice because I'm an only child to have other siblings that care about all the same things that I do.
So people are doing completely different things that are also.
We can lean on each other. It's like, we're in this together, we understand.
One more bag of the kids is.
Great, you sound great. You've read it 6,000 times. You're good to go.
We must stand with the 21 kids demanding government action on #climate change today.
That's him?
That is Leo DiCaprio.
Are you sure that's him?
Let me see here. He has 15.9 million followers. It's probably the same one.
It's been posted for 10 minutes. There's already people at the courthouse right now. There's like people standing outside.
And I'm going to fade there because for some reason when I was loading this, the sound cut out right at that point as they're but that's okay. There's only a few seconds left in the trailer. What's kind of interesting about this whole thing, you don't see a lot of court cases where there's a cheering section. What's kind of amazing is some of the shots you took where they come out of courtroom and there's crowds and applause. It's like a rock concert. It's so there were a lot of people who have been following this case, and it's been going on for 5 years. And really, it's not quite over yet, is it, Christi?
That's right. Yeah, so it's been really interesting seeing this movement grow since I started filming with these young people, seeing the climate movement, be a very maybe my age of people that you would see being involved in this, to it being very much youth-led now. And that has definitely happened over the course of working with these young people and following this case. And they just have an amazing way of getting young people activated and having entire school groups show up to these hearings and actually being present in the courtroom and listening to this and being engaged in their own democracy. And what was the second part of the question you asked? Sorry.
I don't remember. But what I want to do is show you, pop up a photo here of.
We got Shannon back on screen there.
No, we don't.
No.
This is the group, and it's. What I want to ask you about that is you must have grown very close to these kids, and they grew close to each other, didn't they?
They did. And when they first joined this lawsuit as plaintiffs in this lawsuit, most of them did not know each other. There is a handful of young people from the Eugene area that knew each other and had been involved in various climate actions. Kelsey was a big part of recruiting a lot of those local
Kelsey Juliana.
Kelsey Juliana, she's the named plaintiff on the case, and
Right.
she's from Eugene, Oregon, and she was a plaintiff on a case for the state of Oregon and had been doing a lot of local activism. So a lot of the young people from that area, came in through Kelsey's influence. But it was very interesting because when these early hearings, these young people didn't know each other, and they were coming from all over, from Alaska, Louisiana, Florida, Hawaii, New York, and not really having any connection and, shy around each other. And it's amazing over the course of these years to have seen this group become a family unit and so supportive of each other. And I think part of it was this experience of being in a story that only those people understood what they were going through. And I think that was very uniting for this group, and to know that they were in this fight together. And, it didn't matter what background they came from, that these 21 young people represent America, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They represent young people of America. It's an incredibly diverse group that come from very different cultural backgrounds,
and parts of the country that
areas.
and places of the country that have experienced different kinds of climate crises.
Climate impacts.
Yeah, climate
absolutely.
impact. Yeah.
And one of the interesting things that I like, one of the sub stories is Vic, who was in that picture, the second from the right in the front row, discussion with, I presume that was the father, that wasn't quite convinced about climate change.
No, and
I think
that's
even
also
by the end,
something-
he's still trying to convince him.
Yeah, and I think that's something a lot of people assume, I think, with young activists, is that the parents have pushed them into these roles, and that's not the case with these young people at all. And I think Vic's story really shows that. Vic was very engaged since he was 14 in climate activism, and his father is a climate skeptic, and really was not very involved in the work that Vic was doing, despite having spoken before the UN and, having all of this national attention.
And not convinced after his son had done all this remarkable work and is working on this case, and the case is moving forward, and his father's, I still don't believe it. And you just scratch your head. Yeah. And yet,
but at the same time, we see, at the end of the film, that he's willing to let his son teach him. And I think that's a really beautiful message, is that young people really have a lot to teach their parents today. And, I think having these conversations that are filled with empathy and the willingness to listen, I think was a way for them to connect and talk about this, and for Kevin to potentially be open to listening to what his son has to say.
So we only have a couple of minutes left, and it's remarkable to have did you know you were going to have to spend years putting this together? So how do you feel when suddenly it's 3 years down the road and you realize this could be another 3 years? This might go. In fact, I look at the film now and I'm thinking there could still be another end to this. You might have to go back in and re-edit.
Well, we actually did this week. It was incredibly challenging following a story where I didn't know where it was going, from a production standpoint of not knowing a schedule, or, not only with the case, but also with climate impacts, not knowing when the next hurricane was going to hit, or the next 1,000-year flood, or the next wildfire. And
I got a governor in Texas you could interview if you want to do that right now too.
Right. Yeah, so, being able to pivot and follow that, and not necessarily knowing how long the case was going to be in the courts. And we decided about a year and a half ago that this story needed to come out, and that it was time for us to try to find a way to wrap up the story so that we could get it out while the case is still active. We just had a decision in the case last week. The Ninth Circuit Court denied the plaintiff's petition for an en banc review before the full Ninth Circuit Court.
They did.
So they are now, yes, this just happened last week. So they are now going to be taking the case to the Supreme Court. They will be filing a petition for certiorari towards the summer. And the case will go before the Supreme Court. So that was an end card that we had to actually change this last week to say that that this case is now headed to the Supreme Court, and it's going to be, it's going to be there for a while, which really makes this film timely. I think, to have a case, to have a story come out around a case that is still very much ongoing.
The problem is you've got the wrong people on the Supreme Court right now. It's just, I don't see a happy ending to this. But that's okay, because the happy ending is 21 kids who continue to fight for their right to exist in a country that doesn't suffer from the ill effects of climate change.
And they all have a great voice.
The Biden administration also has an opportunity to come to the settlement table on this case. And
good point. Good point. Hadn't thought about that.
So there are a lot of avenues still to take, and we also have a lot of, I think the plaintiffs and the legal team have a lot of faith in the judicial system and in the strength of our Constitution. But yes, the Biden administration can definitely come to the settlement table, and they could clear all of this up on their own.
and thinking of that and watching the film, I got, it starts in the at the end of the Obama administration, and then there's that awful election of 2016, and I realized that some of these kids have spent a quarter of their lives living under that guy that was in the White House starting in 2017. And I just shudder. I'm thinking a quarter of my life under that horrible.
Especially younger ones like Levi.
Yeah, who is one of the most charismatic people you have on this in this film. He's quite a spokesperson for this issue.
It's been, Levi's great. I mean, just to see a little kid who was 8 years old when he came onto this case, and he's now 13 years old and has grown into this and found his voice. It's really amazing. All of these young people are my inspiration.
So there you have it.
It's an amazing film, Christi. What a job.
Fabulous. You did a really great job.
Much.
And
fabulous.
I'm going to cop to it, because I told her this the other day when we were checking out the connections here. I said I wasn't prepared to like it. I mean, I was prepared to like it. I wasn't prepared to be as engaged as I was in the film, and that's a tribute to your filmmaking power. So
I'm curious about that, Mike. Was that because you knew it was about a legal case, and so I'm curious about that initial reaction.
I don't know.
Or it's just another climate change film. Did it feel like that was what?
I think it might have been. Well, we all know where climate change is going and where it's going in the courts, which is pretty much nowhere recently. And so let's see what happens. But what you did was so engaging, and the kids are so engaging that you won me over. You absolutely won me over. I was riveted. So
so how do we get a couple of kids on the show? How do we get a couple of those utes on the show?
We can talk about it.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. It is Ute v. Gov. I'm sorry, I keep saying that. But
Youth v. Gov.
Yeah, Youth with a TH v. Gov at the One Earth Film Festival. Starts on the 5th of March and goes to the 14th. Go to oneearthfilmfest.org. And it's all there. In fact, even at the top, it's got the Ute contest that you can click on to see the Ute films as well. And you're not going to get me to stop, and I'm so embarrassed.
You also have your own website too, Christi,
youthvgovthefilm.com. Yes, that's right.
Oh.
We have all the social platforms.
Yeah, all the same stuff. But you know what? All that's also at MikeNowak.net. So you can go there and get all the links you want. And boy, I hope you get a chance to see this film and go to the festival. That's the idea. Is there's a lot of great stuff, and we're happy to help support them. Christi Cooper, thank you so much. What a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike and Peggy. It's really been an honor. Thank you so much.
We'll do it again. I hope the next time you spend 6 years on a film.
Let's hope not.
Okay. All right. Take care. Have a great Sunday. Bye-bye.
Take care. Thank you so much.
It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy and Malecki. We talk recycling, your food scraps, when we come back.
When I'm with an older tree, and there's just something about it that draws you to it. It's similar to the ocean, draws you to it. And when I see a big tree and I'm gonna climb it, I enjoy that moment, and I'll give the tree a big old hug. My name's Chase Ferris. I work out of the Clackamas office just outside Portland, Oregon. I've been with Bartlett Tree Experts since October of 2016, and I'm a climber. I was kind of surprised and taken back by the quality of equipment and the amount of effort that goes into keeping everyone safe and keeping the jobs productive and making sure that you are progressing every day. And I enjoy that because I like to learn. I like the Raptor, and we use it quite a bit out on the West Coast. Our trees are pretty tall, and the Raptor is great for saving energy, allowing you to get into the canopy with minimal physical exertion so that you're fresh and ready to climb and do what you need to do, when you're 65, 70 feet up or higher. So at my office, I feel like you could take just about anyone, put a crew together, and send them out to a job and have it be successful. And that has to do with trusting the people you work with, feeling safe around them, and knowing their strengths and weaknesses. Every tree needs a champion.
You have the ability to give your soil a superpower. It's called composting. If you don't have a backyard, you need to contact Collective Resource Compost. CRC has diverted 7,000 tons of food scraps since 2010. They bring you a fresh 5-gallon bucket or a 32-gallon neighbor tote with each pickup. You fill it with organic matter from your kitchen, they swap it out and get it to a commercial composting operation. Fight climate change. Go to collectiveresource.us.
Welcome to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Green, gardening, and environment radio with just a soupçon of humor. Or is that a dash? Brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com. Here they are again, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
All I need is good food to eat and make me healthy, wealthy, wide awake. Lettuce, tomatoes, root, bacon. What about those sweet potatoes? All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good tools to make me music, porches, lawn serene. Give me all.
And welcome back to the show. And before we get to Erlene Howard, Peggy, I'll let you handle this.
Yeah, the Evanston Environmental Association's Wild and Scenic Film Festival goes virtual this March, and you can be there from your home. This year's films include the story of the first African-American male to complete the Triple Crown of hiking, how church forests in Ethiopia protect
can I ask
the bio...
a question? Can I ask a question about that? Do you know what the Triple Crown of hiking is?
No, I was going to look it up, and I didn't.
Okay.
I will find out, though.
I'll bet. No.
You look it up.
I'm betting somebody who's watching us right now will send us a note and tell us what the Triple Crown.
It's probably the Appalachian Trail.
That's what I'm thinking. That's got to be one. Probably the Rockies, some trail in the Rockies, and then who knows? The third is around the deck of a cruise ship that's in the Caribbean.
Around the Great Lakes?
Maybe. Okay.
All
anyway.
Right. So back to the Wild and Scenic Film Festival. So the first one we talked about, the story of the first African-American male to complete the Triple Crown of hiking, how church forests in Ethiopia protect the biodiversity of old-growth forests, and a community effort to keep an oil refinery closed after an explosion. The festival happens from 6:30 to 9 p.m. on March 19th and 26th, and tickets are available starting at just $10. All the proceeds from the festival support the operations and programming of the Evanston Ecology Center. So for more information and to register, visit evanstonenvironment.org/filmfest. That's evanstonenvironment.org/filmfest.
And Mac just typed in the Pacific Crest is her guess. That might be one of the in the Triple Crown. I don't know. All right. Anyway,
No, I'll look it up if our listeners who are smarter than we are don't tell us.
I know you will. And let's bring in. Whoa, wrong one. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to bring in this person. There we go. How about that? You know, you got to hit the right buttons here. That's our buddy Erlene, and look at she's got.
Hey, Erlene.
Above her left
She's
shoulder.
got a bucket behind her.
Yeah, a bucket. And this is what you do. You know what I meant to do yesterday? Well, actually, I did call you, but you were busy, and I thought I want a shot of the wall of buckets that you had. You put up recently, I believe, on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
And the wall of buckets is so cool. I want a photograph of that, and we'll put it into the commercial we run for you. And by the way, yes, you should know, Collective Resource Compost is a fine sponsor of the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki, in full disclosure. How are you, Erlene?
I am good, Mike and Peggy. It's so nice to be here. And yeah, that picture is free for the taking. I think you can right-click on it right there from the Facebook page, but I'll definitely get you on.
Get me a high-res version of that, okay? And I can do something with it.
Okay, I'll get that translated. Yeah, we're doing like 16 or 1700 stops a week now on 32 routes. So when those buckets come back to our garage after getting the food scraps to the composting site, we do a lot of bucket washing.
You did.
So, how do you wash the bucket? I mean, it's just water, or do you do something? Is it just water, or you do something?
No, we use soap and water, and then we also do a bleach dip, especially during fly season. So we don't want to leave any fly maggot eggs behind on the buckets. So it depends on the season exactly what they need, but yeah, they get a full scrubbing.
And let's explain the process very quickly for folks who are not familiar with it. The idea here being, if you've got a yard and you can put a compost pile in your yard, good for you. Go for it. This is a good thing because it keeps food scraps out of landfills. And when they go to landfills, the problem is instead of, here's the science behind it. You're going to release carbon dioxide even if you create compost. But if you put it in a landfill, it turns into methane, which is a much worse greenhouse gas. So we're keeping these food scraps out of landfills by doing compost piles in our yard. However, a lot of people don't have backyards, and that's where you come in, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there are people with yards that aren't super interested in maintaining a compost pile. So they might sign up for the service. What's different about using a commercial composting service is that you can put in anything that was once alive. So things that you wouldn't necessarily compost in your backyard, like meat and bones and, sometimes high citrus. There are things sometimes that people don't want in their pile, depending on what they're using their finished compost for. And we provide the 5-gallon bucket or the 32-gallon tote that we use, neighbor totes. And you just put your food scraps in it. And every time we come for a pickup, we take the full container away and deliver one of those buckets that we washed already, and it's ready for you guys to fill it up again. So my idea, which was now 11 years ago, was that if it was easy, more people would put their food scraps in a bucket versus putting them in the landfill, creating that methane that Mike was talking about.
We've had somebody already online say 32 routes, 1,600 stops. Exciting. So It's
Mm-hmm.
remarkable because you've done this in a little over 10 years. We're celebrating 10 years of environmental good. The One Earth Film Festival is one of those things, and so is Collective Resource Compost. You guys, it took you how many months to get your first ton?
Yeah. So, I started in my trunk of my car, my 2002 Toyota Camry, which is still running, and did most of that collection completely on my own. And it took me 6 months to get that first ton diverted. We're working with 2,700 customers now, and some of them have every other week service, and some of them less frequently than that. We have weekly.
No.
We have a variety of services that'll meet anyone's needs, whether it's more containers or more frequent pickups.
Can people join seasonally? So I'm thinking right now I've got a compost bin that's full and partly frozen. And it's not going to start going down for a while, but in the summertime it's cooking away. So can people just join for a while?
Definitely. We in our franchise communities, that have yard carts that aren't available for the whole time, we have a very designated winter gap program, but anybody can sign up for any limited number of pickups they want. So come December or whenever you want to stop using your yard pile, you would just go in and let us know. And if you make it clear right away that you know by April 1st you want to be filling back into your yard cart, you can just let us know. So we'll set it up and have the final pickup scheduled and get you set up with the payment for that. And then you won't worry about it. You won't have to trudge through the snow to your frozen.
Or people don't have to worry about putting it into the landfill for a few months.
Exactly. Never put it in the landfill.
Yeah.
I think we've got one of your customers, happy customer, says, "I'm loving Collective Resource this year," and obviously in the last 2 weeks more than ever, because my compost pile is buried in snow right now. And as I mentioned to you the other day, Erlene, I have these little containers in the kitchen, and then I take them, usually just toss them into the compost pile. Well, that's completely buried in snow, and so I've been putting them into, guess what, a 5-gallon bucket, which now I'm going to dump into my compost pile as soon as it's warm enough for me to trudge through waist-deep snow to open it up.
Don't let it freeze and thaw a few times. I did that with my my curbside one a couple of years ago. That was just nasty.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. But you mentioned something earlier, and by the way, folks, go to collectiveresource.us, and you can find that. If you forget that, just go to my website, MikeNowak.net, and on the right side you'll see the logos of the sponsors for the show, and you click on it, it'll take you right there. And as
you can sign up.
As Erlene and Peggy just let you know, you can do it you don't have to have it year round. You can do it for a shorter time. And you can get your neighbors involved too. You have neighbor totes how does the neighbor tote program work, Erlene?
Yeah, so each neighbor tote has a host. So one relationship with Collective Resource Compost, and then basically 24 people could fill up a tote in a week. But if you have 12 people, with a couple of households, then you would just have the tote picked up every other week. And depending on where you live, the price is either $22 or $24 for that pickup. And and then when there's more volume, if you got your block involved, for example, if there were, once you started to expand the number of neighbor totes, then the price per tote would go down. So we just need one host for each tote, and if you pay for it annually, you get a 10% discount. If you pay for it quarterly, you get a 5% discount. And then basically you're going to collect $1 per person per week from your neighbors. So super inexpensive way to get your food out of the landfill.
Or you charge $2 in pocket a little bit for yourself. But I don't want to get into that.
Carrying charge.
I don't want to get into that, the scheme.
No, we do have a question. Somebody asked if you're going to be expanding into the western suburbs.
Yeah, so if you want to put up our map, Mike, I don't know if you have that easily.
Right on cue. Here we go. All right. I wish I could have it a little larger, but you can see the Chicago area. And what's the orange area? That's your primary service area?
We serve all of these communities. Okay, and actually we've moved a little bit farther south. We had a homeowners association down in the east side of Naperville that was ready to come on board with a group pickup. So that so we're always working. But as you see, we cover a lot of Chicago, and we we hope to even expand that working in. But we go all the way up to Lake Bluff. Everything that's in light green, we service at least every other week. So we would make sure that you had enough containers to get through a 2-week period. And with the buckets, once they're full, you just clamp the lid down on them. They're never a nuisance. So there's no worry about having food scraps for a little bit longer period of time. And then our orange area here is our franchise agreement communities, where we have exclusive hauling rights, where we're the only food scrap container swap model in town. And some of these communities have yard cart programs that have either limited service time or limited material that they take. And some of them have yard services but not food services. And because of our route density in these communities, we're able to offer a reduced price. So we're excited about those agreements and to be working with those towns for these extended periods of time that we're under contract. Hope to be with more communities like that.
So Shelley, who asked about the western suburbs, said, what about Kane County?
I haven't quite made it out to Kane County. I was born in Homewood, which is in southern Cook County, and kind of my initial goal was to be Cook County wide, but I've ventured into Lake County already. And so, so it really depends on how far are you out of the area that we're already at and how much of a presence you had. Now Park Ridge doesn't seem very far away, but that used to be the western boundary of our pickup. And Go Green Park Ridge had like a drive and set up like 20 people who wanted to start. So it made it possible for us to go into their community every other week. And now they have a hearty group there. Their Go Green group has done a really good job of getting the word out about using a bucket swap model to get your food out of the landfill and the importance of that. So I'm super excited about that.
And you're also working this year with some municipalities on commercial pickup, aren't you?
Yeah. So our franchise agreements are with, in Evanston, we are the only food scrap hauler. So that is exciting. And in Skokie, we're the only option for the commercial properties. In Morton Grove, we're an option. They have an open market. They don't have one franchise agreement with any hauler on the commercial side there. So we're one of the options for Morton Grove, and we're hoping for those to extend. We've got a couple more conversations going on, 3 that I can think of off the top of my head, to be working with other municipalities, which is, is ideal, because they know that they've got a reliable service, and we know that we've got work that we can move forward and create all of the resources to be available to help their community.
And Mary Beth from your organization was very helpful. She sent us a list of Illinois municipalities that currently have composting programs. The Illinois Food Scrap Coalition put that together. And obviously, if you want that for your community, you should agitate for it. You should be calling, well, and I'm going to be honest here, you're not the only outfit now. 10 years ago, you were it, pretty much. Now, others have gotten on board, and there are other which is a good thing, because a rising tide lifts all boats and lifts all compost, right?
Right, exactly. Like, our only competition is the status quo of putting that food into the landfill. If however you get your food out of the landfill is amazing. So Deerfield, for example, they're the first community that I know of who is putting down a cart at every single family home starting April 1st for yard waste and food scraps combined. That's going to be a year-round program in Deerfield. What an amazing thing. That's like Seattle, that's like, that's something that
Let's not get crazy here, okay? Or San Francisco, you're thinking.
And that's through Lakeshore Recycling, because we've had a pilot program here in Highland Park on that for a few years. But it's not every residence. You have to sign up for it.
Yeah, this is every resident with like no increased cost to how they pay for their trash. It's just going to be worked into their regular system. And I am thrilled, thrilled. And I think that we'll see more of those type of programs where everybody's going to start getting to be accountable to having some food scrap diversion program from their household or their business. I think that is the wave of the next couple of years here of what we're going to see throughout Chicagoland.
Let's get into some of the generalities of composting. You mentioned earlier that in a compost pile, you can pretty much put anything organic, and as you say, and I like to tell people when they say, well, what's organics? And I say, well, pretty much anything that was once alive and is now not alive is something that's an organic material. But that said, when you look at websites, a lot of composting websites for homes, for backyards, they say, please do not put in meat products, do not put in dairy products, but you're different. And the reason they say that in your own yard is because they're worried about critters getting in there. Of course, if it's contained, you can keep them out. But so talk about that difference just a little bit, Erlene.
Yeah, it's not just the critters, Mike. Even though you don't want rats, which the meat and the dairy would definitely heighten the interest of some of those scavengers, the raccoons and rats and stuff. But the piles, the commercial piles where we bring our materials are huge, 18 feet wide, 9 feet tall. They actually cook inside. And most of the home piles are what we call cold piles. They don't necessarily, especially in our part of the world, don't get hot. The nitrogen carbon interaction, it is not enough to heat up the piles. And so while the food does break down, it doesn't cook. And cooking is what needs to happen to kill the problems that you could have with the pathogens, the meat, that, especially if it's not cooked all the way, or the seafood shells, or that kind of stuff could really be a health issue. If you were taking it from your pile and putting it in your garden and growing food, you could really get some people sick. The other piece of the commercial composting, if I haven't answered your whole question, let me know, but the other piece of commercial composting has a big impact on us creating zero waste events. of being able to have a lot of 100% paper plates or paper boats to collect
Or
food
cups
waste. Yeah, so and there's a lot of things going on with the plastic industry and the plant-based plastics about getting them. We're working on a study here through the Illinois Food Scrap Coalition about getting the plastics, getting the right procedure to get the plant-based plastics to break down and to work more on labeling and on coloration and, make sure it's not every green bag isn't compostable, but we would like to make every compostable bag green and have it labeled compostable. So, we want, when you add in compostable disposables, you get into more contamination possibilities. So we want to definitely grow that part of the industry. But if you wanted to have a zero waste ballpark, then you would want to be able to compost a lot of carbon, a lot of paper material, and to be able to have the thin beer cups or pop cups or whatever made from corn or other natural materials.
Yeah, that's the difficulty here. I mean, you can't throw a Starbucks cup into your compost pile because it's made of a couple of substances and you've got plastic as part of it. That's not going to break down, and don't even get me started on recyclable cups. We'll do that on a different segment on the show. But as you mentioned, what about the compostable, and I'm using air quotes here, compostable plasticware? If you put that in your own compost pile in the back, you come back in a year, you put a fork in, you're still going to have a fork. It's going to be there, right? Because you need the heat to break those down.
You need the heat, and we're trying to kind of bring some accountability to the certifiers, because the utensils do not break down in the Midwest. They do not break down in windrow composting or static aerated piles. They are not good for the industry currently. So, but when you get into the thinner material like a bag or a drink cup, that's not designed. So the drink cups aren't designed for heat. That, if you want a compostable coffee cup, it's a paper cup that's lined with plant-based plastic, and then that will break down because that plastic is really thin. Or if you have a cold drink cup, that's really thin also, and that can get ground up and it will break down. Probably not as fast as we would like it to, but it will break down. But when you get a fork or a spoon that's made to go into hot soup,
yeah,
and not break.
No.
And not break and not melt in your mouth.
Right.
Well,
yeah, we still
it's still got to be tweaked.
Yeah, we haven't figured that out at all. Yeah.
And I'm a board member at the Illinois Food Scrap Coalition. I love what they're working on for the industry and trying to make make this possible. I mean, I think a lot of people have a big, good vision of what's next, but we do need a few more compost sites all over Illinois. Illinois.
Yeah, we do. And really good question here, and it'll be the last one. Do you work with food pantries that often have food waste?
We do some. There's some volunteer work being done through through Illinois Food Scrap Coalition. We do have a discount rate on our tote service for organizations that are feeding people, and so we're doing our best. If it helps if the food pantry is not too far away from a other large producer, to be able to get the prices discounted, or to get some sponsorship from neighboring organizations. We can't do it for free. At least we can't do all of it for free.
Well, you're a business after all, and I imagine you can set up a a good rate for somebody, but come on, this is part
It's
of
the business.
Why not get capitalism involved in making the planet a better place? I think that's what we call win-win, right?
Well, and everybody who knows me knows I'm not a millionaire. I've been working very diligently for 10 years, 11 years at this, and many years before cleaning up other situations.
Well, you've still got that 2002 car, I guess. So that tells you something right there. I've watched you clean pots. When you were renting out a space on the north side of Chicago, I came by and watched you guys clean out the buckets.
We've watched you sorting recycling at many an event.
Oh, right. And I can't wait to be elbow deep in sorting and being able to be with people and on the other side of this horrible pandemic.
That's true. But then we get to the point, and we don't have time anymore. But at some point, you got to come back and explain to us why even environmentalists can't figure out what goes in which bin at an event. Like, I mean, I'm telling you, we go to these events, back when there wasn't a pandemic, and someday in the future, if that ever happens again.
People just stare at the bins and go, where do I put it?
Where do I put this? And that's why Erlene has to stand there and say, no, that goes there and that goes there. But why is it that even environmentalists can't figure it out? That drives me crazy.
Yeah, well, I think that we need to make it simpler. We have to make things that are labeled recyclable really be recyclable, so there's not that question. And then it would be very simple if you knew exactly what was recyclable, then it would be really clear about what would go in the compost bin versus what would go into the trash. But composting is definitely the easy way, the super easy way to reduce what ends up in the landfill. And it's so straightforward. And, I love when people stop and ask. I only have a hard time when people walk up and say, "Oh, I've got this," and then they throw everything in one of the containers, and they get it wrong.
And then you're picking them out of the bins and putting them in the right ones.
You've got one of those pictures of me manning the waste station. With all my orange buckets around me.
Exactly. I know what that's like. All right, I got to let you go, but we will have that. We got to have that.
It's so good to talk to you both. Thank you so much for having me today.
Everybody, if you care about the planet, you want to keep food scraps out of landfills, go to collectiveresource.us and try it out. Try out the service. You're going to be really happy because it's like no muss, no fuss. They take care of it. They bring back a clean tote or a bucket. And
boom, done.
Right. You don't even have to think about it. So, Erlene Howard, thank you so much, and we'll talk again real soon, okay?
All right. Thank you. Take care. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Guess who's coming up next? It's that meteorologist guy, Rick DeMaio, and we'll be right back.
Hello from Happy Leaf. This is BJ Miller, the horticulturist here on staff. The best way we can help you be successful with indoor gardening is to provide you with a really great grow light. There are a lot of choices on the market, and it can be extremely confusing to decide what you need. Our goal here at Happy Leaf is to provide you with a light that lasts a very long time and makes your plants really happy. We have several satisfied customers, including our friends Mike Nowak and Peggy Malecki, because we have specifically designed a light that is versatile, it's very effective, and it is extremely simple to use. Our lights are perfect for seed starting, but you can do so much more, especially these months of the winter. You can supply yourself with your own leafy greens and herbs, grow lots of different types of vegetables, keep your small fruit trees thriving, and your houseplants will think you've sent them for a day at the spa.
At this time of year, we spend a lot of time indoors with our plants, so help them thrive. The plants you're viewing were treated with LeafZyme, a foliage spray designed to activate beneficial microbes already present on the leaves. A spritz every few weeks promotes growth-enhancing microorganisms that process dust and other particles into nutrition that indoor plants can absorb through their leaves for beautiful and vigorous growth. Go to blazing-star.com and check out their BioGarden line for home gardeners.
From small boat fishermen to your dinner table with safe, free, no-contact delivery, Sitka Salmon Shares brings premium wild Alaska seafood to your door. They're a community-supported fishery offering shares just like your local CSA. All fish is wild caught in season with respect for the limits of the ocean. Line caught and traceable to their fleet. Use promo code NOVAC25 for $25 off the first month of a share. Go to sitkasalmonshares.com/NOWAK. And here we are. Sorry about that. I went and was rewarming my coffee, and I almost had enough time to do that.
Uh-oh. And Rick's got to be off by 10:45 too. So
is that what he says? Okay. Well, let's get him
on.
Let's see. I don't see him there. Rick, are you with us this morning? I do not see Rick on the line.
Text him.
Boy, I hope he didn't use that old line we had, because I thought we were using this new one here. I do not see him in his spot there. Oh, but while you're doing that, I will let folks know that the Evanston Environmental Association's Wild and Scenic Film Festival goes virtual this March, so you can attend from the comfort of your home. This year's films include the story of the first African-American male to complete the Triple Crown of hiking, which we figured out, and we'll tell you about that. Our listeners and viewers got that for us. And how church forests in Ethiopia protect the biodiversity of old-growth forests, and the story of one community's fight to keep an oil refinery closed after an explosion. Always a good thing. The special event happens on 2 nights, March 19th and 26th, 6:30 to 9 p.m., and tickets are available starting at $10. All proceeds support the Evanston Ecology Center. For more info and to register, visit evanstonenvironment.org/filmfest. Have you heard anything back from?
I've texted him.
I hope he's he was on this line.
He's in his car.
All right.
So
he should be on that line that we've used the last several weeks. It's the same one, so I hope he didn't go to the other one, because I can't bring it up. That's for sure. So la-da-da-da-da.
Saw a comment from Judy, who asked about lake ice moving south to north. A good sign. And I saw that yesterday too. The ice was moving north. Which was interesting. It's there's some open areas out there on the lake, but it's fairly frozen. I mean, you couldn't walk on it, that's for sure. There's a lot of open areas and ice moving, but there still is a lot of ice flow.
And by the way, the correct answer to the Triple Crown of hiking is, and Mac was right when she texted in earlier, the Pacific Crest, the Appalachian Trail, and
Rick says the link is not working.
Well, it's probably because he's trying it on his phone, and he's probably got the old link.
I don't know.
Okay, I can send him. Okay, let me just do this. You do something interesting. Do something really interesting, Peggy, because I can actually send.
I have nothing to juggle with right here. Wait a second.
Talk about a story or something. So I will
talk about.
Whoops. Let's close that. Wait a second. Output 1. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. Close that.
One of the things that we were going to talk about today is you may have heard on the news is the Union Pacific Railroad was going to start some tree clearing along their right-of-way through Highland Park and up to Lake Forest. So basically from Lake Cook Road north along Route 41. And this is a whole program that the UP Railroad said for safety, they need to clear all of their right-of-way, all trees. not just dead, not just dying, but they put all trees as, quote, operational hazard along UP-owned right-of-way on either side of the train tracks running parallel to Route 41. And this was supposed to have started February 8th. And on Friday, February 5th, Union Pacific notified the city of Highland Park that the planned tree removal project has been put on hold. There was a lot of people who found out what was happening and started contacting UP, started contacting the city, the county, etc., and saying, "What do you mean you're going to clear all of the trees?" So it's kind of interesting because they're starting in Wisconsin apparently, but this is an overall thing that UP does on their right-of-way, according to the project frequently asked questions that I'm looking at right now, which is on cityhpil.com. That they decided that the best way to take care of safety concerns is just remove all trees. New trees, old trees, dead trees, live trees. Take them all out. So this is on hold, and this has been on a couple of the local news. So it's be interesting to see where this goes.
Yeah, that's and I don't think it has, as you said, I wasn't aware of it until you pointed it out to me, and I'll
pop that up on Restream here.
Yeah, we're not going to get Rick. I can tell you right now, because I tried to send him a new. It won't let me send out a new link. Judy said you guys need a teenager. We got one. It's Rick DeMaio, and he said because he can't hear us.
Wait a minute.
He's in the car trying to get us on the phone. Rick, you can't throw those curveballs at me like that. You gotta let me know you're going to be doing that so we can do a test. But there you go.
So then, speaking of recycling, you were going to talk a little bit this morning about recycling in Chicago.
Yeah, there was in fact, let me find that video because I was watching this video. It was the Joint Committee on Environmental Protection and Energy Ethics and Government Oversight. Some of you might remember that the Office of the Inspector General of the City of Chicago did a report a little while ago and said, yeah, Chicago's recycling is really awful. And the buildings that are supposed to have, the way it's set up, there's a two-tier system in Chicago. Actually, they're side by side. It's not like this. It's more like this, where you have the blue carts, which are in the residential homes, and resident is determined by 4 units or fewer. So if you've got a 4-flat, anything less a 2-flat, a 3-flat, or a single family residence, you get a blue cart for each of those. Above 4, you're supposed to get a contract with, and I can't believe after all these years, we still have to explain to people how recycling works in Chicago because people who live in the suburbs go, what? We just pick it up. Although I imagine even in suburbs, businesses have their own haulers, waste haulers. But in Chicago, if your building has 5 or more units in it, you're supposed to contract with a waste hauler and get recycling. Well, guess what we found out, and we knew this. The city doesn't keep records of that. And the Office of Inspection, and we had the Better Government Association on. We've had them over the last couple of years to talk. They've done studies on this and exposés and say, yeah, the city doesn't, not only is a blue card at 9%, which is a terrible rate, but the city doesn't even have contracts with a lot of these large buildings. And then the Office of the Inspector General said the same thing and said, yeah, this is kind of an embarrassment. And so there was this committee meeting on February 10th where the Department of Streets and Sand and a bunch of alder critters and some various organizations like Chicago Recycling Coalition and also the Office of Government Inspector, the OGI, all testified. And basically it came down to, we really don't have the manpower to do that. We really don't know how, Streets and Sand saying, well, it'd be really great if some other departments could help us with this. So I was watching this, and yelling at the screen, and it's I don't see things change. I mean, there was a law passed in 2017 that was supposed to take care of this, that was supposed to address the issue of the high rises in Chicago. Well, it's not been addressed. It's not been addressed at all. And is anything going to change? I don't know. Here's how things change when you get the political will to do it. And as we all know, that all starts at the top. And right now, there's been no political will regarding environmental matters in Chicago for at least 11 years now. Even Richie Daley, who had a Department of the Environment, had some real gaps in that, but at that time we had a Department of the Environment.
Yeah.
Mayor Lori Lightfoot does not have a Department of the Environment, although she ran on reestablishing the DOE. Is anything going to change? No, I don't think so. And it's interesting because something else had happened within the same week that I told you about, Peggy, was that I saw this op-ed piece in the Sun-Times by Suzanne Malik McKenna, who was the last commissioner of the Department of the Environment before it was disbanded in 2011. And she basically said, she wrote a piece about Mayor Lori Lightfoot and said, she's really not been very good for the environment, and she's and she put a positive spin on it. She said, "There's still time. You can still do this." Yeah. And I'm looking at that and thinking, I'm seeing one-term mayor here. So I think we should start addressing Lori Lightfoot as one-term mayor Lori Lightfoot, because she's had so many other issues, but certainly the environment has been chief among them. And not only is it recycling. It's the South Side, where we've talked about General Iron going in there, and that is still up in the air, whether that's going to happen.
The hunger strike happening for that tomorrow, too.
I'm glad we brought that up. There are people on a hunger strike to keep General Iron out of the 10th Ward, which we've talked about on this show. It's a company that was in Lincoln Park until the beginning of this year. And they were trouble. They were a bad neighbor, a bad actor in Lincoln Park, and now they've been absorbed by another company, but it's going to be, if not exactly the same operation, a similar operation, and they're going to put it down the street from a high school in the 10th Ward, and of course the people in the neighborhood don't want that, and that doesn't even begin to address the waste dump at the mouth of the Calumet River that the Army Corps of Engineers is considering building up. It's just if it's a 10th
it's there already.
Yeah,
just making it even bigger.
Land that should have been returned to the city in 1994, which is still controlled by the Corps of Engineers. So this is our environmental situation in the city of Chicago. And then another thing that's going on right now that you might be interested in, because I've been following this, there's an ordinance introduced by Alderman Hopkins that would create a registry of native plants. As you know, for years, people who have put native gardens in their yards have often, not always, but often been fined by the city of Chicago and forced to pay fines of somewhere between $600 and $1,200 for having plants that are considered weeds. There go the air quotes again. And so one of the ways to look at that right now is the city is considering enacting a registry. So you have a native garden, you've got native plants in it, and you don't want to have the city come after you. And you can get on the registry. There's issues, though, with that. I mean, I've been looking at the language of it. There seems to be a jurisdictional issue. Is it going to be the Streets and Sanitation Department that's going to handle this, or is it development and planning that's going to handle it? There is no Department of the Environment, as I mentioned, which would be a perfect fit for them. Is there going to be training? Are you going to have 100% native plants? That's one of the things it says, all native plants. Well, anybody who grows native plants, anybody who gardens anywhere knows that things pop into your yard. They do. They just happen to pop into your yard, whether you want to or not. So let's say an inspector comes, and first of all, they probably don't know the difference between overgrown grass and native plants, and then they say, well, what's that dandelion doing there? Or what's that other plant doing there? When you're supposed to have 100% native plant yard, that's just not a possibility. At any rate, the point is there are issues.
It's murky.
It's murky, and I'm hearing that there's going to be public meetings or I hope at least a public meeting so it doesn't happen all behind the scenes. So that is in the pipeline as well, and I'm following that and trying to, it's all connected to the weed law, and there might be changes in the weed law as well. One of these sticking points is this weird part of the law that says no plant can be more than 10 inches high. Folks, write to me right now and tell me a native plant that is not more than 10 inches high, all right? Or doesn't have
coneflowers taller than that.
It's just nuts. And they want setbacks, like 3 feet from any sidewalk. Well, if you're in a city and you got 3-foot setbacks on all sides, you're going to have a garden about that big.
How big?
But the 10-inch thing is the killer. This big, that big. It's just that big.
Little micro garden.
Little tiny native garden. But the 10-inch law rule is one that's going to cause issues, and it continues to cause issues. It seems to be a number that sprang up whole in the midst of time. And now everybody says, well, no, it's what everybody says, 10 inches. Well, nobody knows where that number came from. But it's there. And I do understand that there are vacant lots that are where slumlords abuse the privilege of having a lot, and they let things grow over, and you have to fix those lots, and you have to make sure that they're maintained.
And not even necessarily slumlords. It's an empty lot.
Yeah,
but
if you own the lot, if you own the lot, you should be taking care of it, especially if you have a lot of it.
Somebody asked, is the 10-inch height of plants in a lawn?
What? In a lawn?
Is the 10-inch height of plants in a lawn or in a garden?
It's in the garden. Well, in a lawn too. I mean, if you let your lawn grow over 10 inches, you're violating the law too. The idea was the 10 inches is set up so that if a lawn is let to overgrow above 10 inches, the city can come and issue you a ticket and cut it down. The problem is when you apply it to native gardens, it's going to be very hard. Now, they're saying that in the registry, you could have plants above 10 inches, but not if you put them in a parkway. And some people are going to want to put them. I have plants in a parkway that are.
We've had gardens in the SIGA competition that are in the parkway.
Yep, native plants in parkways, and non-native plants in parkways that are really pretty, and we've given awards to. Mm-hmm. So this is all in the pipeline. This native plant registry is going on right now, and I don't know how quickly it's going to be resolved, but I'm hoping they were supposed to have a town hall tomorrow or Tuesday or Wednesday. Well, I think the snowstorm sort of put that back, and probably other issues have put it back. If I hear about it, I'm certainly going to let everybody know, because this is an issue that we want to weigh in, Peggy and I, as people who have started the Chicago Excellence in Gardening Awards, because it's going to affect the people who enter our contest and what we judge. But certainly anybody who wants to have native plants.
And I'm thinking of like Keeler Gardens.
Yeah. Oh, there's
our whole front lawn and parkway, everything is a native.
And dozens and dozens of gardens in the city. And as I have said, and nobody seems to listen to me when I say this, if you trained people, I think in an hour I could teach somebody to tell the difference between an overgrown lawn and a native garden. Give me an hour. I think I could do that. And then you just
half an hour.
Well, I'm trying to be generous about that. But there's a look to an overgrown lawn that a native garden just doesn't have. Or there's a look to a native garden that an overgrown lawn doesn't have, if you want to put it that way, the positive spin on it. So, I don't know. So, that is in the works too, but we still can't recycle. We're still finding people for growing native plants in our yards. So, even though we're trying to get rid of that problem, and we're still trying to put industry in the 10th Ward where the folks down there don't want it. So those are some of the environmental issues in the city of Chicago. And there was I think one or two other things that we talked about that you mentioned, but we're almost out of time here. Peggy, was there anything you wanted to bring up?
Nope, nothing really. You know, there's a chance of snow today, 2 to 4 inches. I'm just looking at National Weather Service forecast.
Yep, wish we'd had Rick to do that.
More to the north and the west than to the south, and then look for it to get a little bit warmer this week.
Okay.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
All right, and I just
Alan.
Yeah, even better.
Alan!
Okay. So let me just get this.
Alrighty then.
At the yeah, that's right. Well, alrighty then. I won't even do. There's Alan. There's Shut Up Wesley. That's the theme I want here. This one I want to bring it down here so it doesn't blow us out and start it right here. Sure wish we'd had Rick.
Oh well.
That's right. Let's just dance. I want to thank everybody on the show today who is here. The folks from the One Earth Film Festival. It was great having Christi Cooper and Shannon Germaine on. I want to thank Erlene Howard from Collective Resource Compost. Go to collectiveresource.us. And, of course, Basil and Legata's here someplace.
Basil's been really quiet this week.
Yeah, really. The 10,000 Sparrows in My Yard, Kathleen, everybody else. Until next time, go green or
go home.
What?
Is that it?
Yes, it's over. How'd you like it?
I don't know. I slept through the whole thing.
Well, you didn't miss much.